Hi, my name is Lisa Kreidel. Welcome to Team 712.
And I'm Philip McIntosh, and we're very excited to start a new school year. We've got some really interesting things planned for the 2012-2013 school year here at Challenger.
One of the most exciting things is that our team has been chosen for a one-on-one iPad program where each student will get their own iPad to use all day at school.
Yep, that's going to be great. A little bit more on that later, though. Right now, we'd like to begin by just telling you a little bit more about ourselves. Would you like to go first?
I don't know, be my guest. You go.
Well, I insist. You should go first, I think.
All right, well, how about we rock, paper, scissors for it?
Okay, fair enough.
The best way to do.
All right, here we go. Ready?
Rock, paper, scissors. What is that?
Spock.
Spock?
Spock always wins for reasons that I can't explain right now.
Okay, well, I'll take your word for it. You are the science guy.
All right, fair enough. Wait a minute, that means I have to go first.
That's what it means.
Oh, I should have thought that through a little better.
Yeah, well, you know.
In the meantime, without further ado, here's a little bit more about myself. I was born in the little town of Grimsby, Ontario, Canada, right across the big lake from Toronto. I had a couple of sisters. That's me there on the left. It's the way we cut our hair back then. That's my mom. My dad was a purchasing guy, and he got transferred to Rochester, New York when I was 9 years old. We lived in Irondequoit, and I went to elementary school there for a while. Then we got transferred over to Bridgeton, Missouri, which is a little north of St. Louis. Finally, over to Springfield, Ohio, and that's where I did 8th grade and finished high school. Didn't like school much, so I went to a trade school for the last 2 years of school. Bought my first car there. Also, learned to play guitar and joined my first rock and roll band. But got tired of working in machine shops after school, so I joined the Air Force. Got some training over at Chanute Air Force Base in aircraft electrical systems. And then got sent to Bergstrom Air Force Base in Austin, Texas, which was pretty lucky. I always kept my hair cut to regulation and won many special accommodations for the cleanliness of my room. Oh yeah, I definitely kept playing guitar while I was there too, and since it was Austin, I was in the music scene, had a band, and did some video production and whatnot. As fate would have it, I met a girl, got married, had a party, had my picture taken next to a cactus. Then one thing led to another, ended up with 2 fine kids, Irene and Elna. They're both in college now. This is our first year as empty nesters. Back then I was a pretty avid cyclist. Used to ride up and down, climb some rocks too, and I'm still got that same old bike. I'm rebuilding it in my garage right now. I was fortunate enough to get a job at a medical device company after I got out of the Air Force, and I worked on machines and instruments, and they had a great tuition reimbursement program, so I went to Southwest Texas State University. I was always interested in plants and chemistry, so I got a double major in botany and chemistry and studied fungi while I was there as well. Worked my way up to engineer at the company and then went to the University of Texas for my graduate work. There I did research on pathogenic fungi, cell and molecular biology, and kind of became a specialist in electron microscopy. And I can identify your mushrooms for you if you need to. Then kind of got tired of the city life after a while, so we moved out to Peyton, Colorado to live in a house that my mom and stepdad had. And that's where I started getting into teaching, because I figured I could do a better job than the ones that were teaching my kids. I believe that it's safe to make mistakes in my class, and we learn from our mistakes. Mistakes are a good thing, really. I encourage you to come visit. You probably won't see me talking to the whole class in a lecture, but you might see me giving a kid some individualized instruction. And you definitely won't see everybody working on the same thing at the same time in my class, because there's just not one way to do an education these days. This year, I'm going to do some project-based learning like our globes that we did last year, and as much hands-on work as we can get in is what we're going to try to accomplish in both science and math. So, whether you're learning about electronics and personalized creation time, or you're baking a new kind of cake that has never been baked before, just so long as it's got something to do with learning, well, I'm all for it. So you get a chance to ask me more about that a little bit later. At home, I like to make and build stuff. I got a couple of different shop/lab setups. I enjoy working with my hands, fixing things. Tried to make a shirt once. It's really, really hard. I like to make rustic furniture, build models and gizmos of various kinds. I also dabble in art. Hey, that looks like a mushroom. Last year, for some reason, started walking up 14ers, along with my stepdad, who's 70 years old. We did our first one last year, and since then, we've gotten 5, including 2 this year. I'm an avid reader, read 60 to 70 books a year, and I invite you to check out my Shelfari page, and you kind of see what I'm reading, because I believe you can tell a lot about a person by the books they read. And I'm still playing that guitar. If you want to know what I really think, please check out my blog at mrmcintoshsays.org. You know, if we can just get kids to put their names on the papers, I think all of our problems will be solved. And Mr. Camacho, you need to do a better job of watching the doors so you don't let people like this in the building.
Well, Phil, you've done some exciting things in your lifetime.
Well, yeah, I try. Thanks. I think it's time to hear a little bit more about you.
Okay.
I was born and raised in Colorado Springs. My dad decided to retire from the Army here, and we settled down on the west side of Colorado Springs in Pleasant Valley, where I've since moved back to in order to raise my family. This is my first grade picture from Halbert Elementary School, where my first grader is currently a student. I was a high schooler in the 80s, which explains a lot about me, including my great taste in music and the hairdo. My mom is from Tokyo, and this is me during my first trip to Japan when I was 12. Even though I suffered from terrible culture shock for a couple of weeks, my love for traveling was born. I've traveled overseas several times, and here I am on my third trip to Japan with my aunt at our family burial site in Tokyo. Lately, though, I've been staying more stateside. We've been exploring Colorado and California, and we'll be going back to Indiana this October. In addition to traveling, thanks to Mrs. Peel, I love running. I just finished the Ascent Half Marathon this past weekend, and boy, was that ever hard. I've run one full and several halves. Truly, I prefer halves. Bicycling with my family is also one of my favorite activities. Here my husband and I are taking a break while bicycling from Monterey to Carmel last spring break. The most important and meaningful activity that I practice is yoga. I've been practicing for about a year and a half now, and it's become part of my and my husband's daily lives. My current goal is to one day get into a handstand without the wall for more than 2 seconds. This is my family. I have 2 daughters. Vivian is 14 and starting high school. And this is Mina, who I mentioned is in first grade this year. My husband is from Nebraska, as I'm finding out a lot of Colorado's population is from there. He is a psychologist at a small family practice downtown. After college, my mom and I owned and operated Tsukasa Japanese restaurant and sushi bar. It was a lot of hard work, and I learned many things. The main lesson that I learned from this time was that I don't want to own a restaurant. After we sold the restaurant, I went to work for Pikes Peak Library District at the Penrose branch. I loved working with all those books, but decided that I wanted to be a teacher, which apparently was what I wanted to be all along, as I reread a biography written for me when I was in first grade that stated I wanted to be a teacher when I grow up. So I guess I grew up and I went back to college to get a master's degree in education, and I have been teaching here ever since. I love teaching at Challenger Middle School and have a deep respect and appreciation for all who come through this building. I believe that all children have a huge potential for learning and growing, and when given a safe and caring environment, along with useful and relevant tools, there are no limits to what they can achieve. I look forward to another great year full of wonder, exploration, and achievement.
Now, how about more on those iPads?
Okay. Over the summer, Lisa and I met weekly to learn as much as we can by testing out apps, watching training videos, just basically using our iPads as much as we could to do various things. And I know that one way that I'll be using them in class is to make just have kids make short instructional videos based on what they've learned. They'll also be writing reports and other documents to be submitted electronically with no need to print them. They're also going to replace our good old-fashioned whiteboards that we have a lot of fun with in class, even though we'll still use those too sometimes. Basically, just where appropriate, they'll be used for any kind of text, graphic, or artistic kind of work that seems to make sense. Now, we'll still use pen, paper, and pencil too, but kids are going to have a lot more choice this year when it comes to how they're going to be able to do their schoolwork.
That's great. And I believe iPads can have a huge impact on student engagement and learning in language arts and social studies. In language arts, some of the ways I plan to use the iPad is to assist students in their peer edits, journal writing, collaboration with each other and myself, vocabulary mastery, and writing and researching. In social studies, students will have instant access to primary and secondary sources, interactive maps, current events, and be able to collaborate, hopefully, with kids from around the country and maybe even from around the world. Most importantly, Phil and I want to establish a learning community within our classrooms and extend this to parents, guardians, and siblings. We invite your input, expertise, and questions.
Wow, that just really sounds awesome. I can't wait to get started.
I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Me too. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.